Hey everyone, and we're live. Welcome to this week's on .NET Live. My name is Cecil, Phillip, and this week we're going to be learning about how you can start building your own templates for the .NET CLI using some really cool tools that my friend Syed here is going to talk to us about. So,
Hello.
Syed, why don't you introduce yourself really quickly and let folks know who you are and what do you do?
Sure. Yeah. Senior program manager working on ASP.NET Core related features in Visual Studio. And then, been at Microsoft for about a little over 10 years and been working in the template space for a long time, actually. First kind of created some extensions for Visual Studio and then realized how hard it was to create templates with the existing technology back then. And then worked with Mike Lorbetsky to invent .NET New as we know it. And yeah, I think that's man, that's really about it. But let me say, I love templates, man, and it's really been a long journey, but we're finally getting to the place where I've always wanted to be. So still a few more things left that we need to do, but man, we've made a lot of progress over the past about 5 years, I think.
I actually remember a project like long before I started Microsoft. I think it was you and some other folks had a project called Slow Cheetah or something like that. And I believe that was a templating tool as well, right? To allow you to have like these external templates.
You're thinking about Sidewaffle, but yeah, I was the main guy
Sidewaffle, yeah, that's
behind.
what it's called.
Yeah, Slow Cheetah was really about transforming config files, and when you
That's right. That's
F5,
right.
that's what that was about. But Sidewaffle, man, that was the template one, and that's where we kind of we in Visual Studio for a long time they've had this technology called VS Template, and that's what they use to create templates, right? And man, it's really super difficult to create and maintain templates with VS Template. One of the problems is you have to take your code and then modify it in such a way that you add these special tokens, right? I think they're like $ or % I forget the syntax, but let's say if you got a namespace declaration, you'll go and rip that out and replace it with like $ root namespace $. And then as you edit that, you get a bunch of errors, and you can't run that thing, and all of a sudden you're maintaining two different copies. You got your actual sample and then your actual template, and wow, it's really a nightmare. So we created Sidewaffle that said, hey, maybe we can make it a little bit easier to build on top of VS Template. And then end up realizing, hey, this is still too difficult. We need to kind of rethink templates altogether. So that's what we have with .NET New and the template engine. It's the most of the, let's say, template engines or template preprocessors that are out there. They follow this pattern of you take your code and you modify your code itself to have these non-buildable tokens. And then, that's the crux of the problem is, you have to modify your code in a way that it doesn't run, and you have to always maintain two separate things. But as I'll show you today with the template engine, and that's what .NET New relies on. So with the template engine, your code is always runnable, and your code itself is a template. And we'll show how it's way easier to maintain and create these templates.
Nice. And I know you have some new cool tools that you're going to show us today. But before we do that, a couple of things we want to do. First off, I want to shout out everyone that's in the chat. I see folks that are in here. We have folks from the Ukraine. Thank you all so much for joining us. Turkey, Nigeria. We have some folks here from Australia, some folks here from India. Hey, I know it's probably really late where you are right now, so I definitely appreciate you all joining us today. Before we really dive into talking about templates, I do want to share some links. So if you all don't mind, I'm going to share my screen really quickly and talk to you about some of the cool stuff that's been happening over the past week or so. Now, first off, those of you that may or may not know this, but .NET 6 is on the way, and just today, Dan Roth just published this blog post about ASP.NET Core updates in .NET 6 Preview 3, right? Because .NET 6 Preview 3 is actually available right now. You can download it today, and we'd really appreciate it if you did try it out and let us know like any of the issues or problems that you might see in the previews. But again, you can take a look through this blog post. There's a lot of updates to things like, HTTP 3 support, Razor support, smaller SignalR and, Blazor scripts and things of that nature. So it looks like a lot of stuff in here really focused on performance and really improving like that developer experience. And again, as always, I'll make sure I'll share these links in the chat as well as we go for it. Another thing I want y'all to take a look at. So, Syed is here to talk about templates, but he actually has a series of videos that he already did on the Visual Studio channel that talks a little bit about, some of what we're going to cover today. Just, these are in little smaller bite-sized chunks. So you can learn about, creating templates, using templates, installing new templates, and even troubleshooting your own templates too. So, these are all already on YouTube. You can go ahead and check those out. And yeah, and I mean, hopefully he brought some extra special stuff for us so that you'll stay and watch our video. But again, like, we already have these from the Visual Studio Toolbox show that you can always go check out. And the last one I want to share with you all as well, there's actually a website. I believe, Syed, I believe you maintain this or run this also, but this is .netnew.azurewebsites.net. And it's, pretty much a template exploration experience. So if you think about, you can go to NuGet today and you could search for different NuGet packages and things of that nature. Well, you can come here to .netnew.azurewebsites and you can find different templates that you can install, and then you can .netnew install the new template. So this is pretty cool. You can come in here and you see a lot of different things, from identity server to there's hot chocolate for doing GraphQL. There's some official Microsoft things in here as well. So again, definitely check this out if you're looking for maybe some alternative templates to the ones that we have in the box today. And that's it for the links that I wanted to share.
Okay, great.
So Syed, I gotta ask you, why do you think templates are so hard to maintain? And why is templates such a hard problem? Because I feel like every year we always get feedback from these templates, like there's too much stuff in it, there's not enough stuff in it, it doesn't do this, it doesn't do that. And so now we have all of these opinions, right? Like, why is this such a hard thing to tackle?
Yeah, great question. I think there's kind of two answers to it. I think one, there's just the philosophical perspective, for example, templates are essentially the first place that a new user is going to have a chance to interact with your platform, right? So for that case, it's definitely very important to have a pretty good user experience there. And then in addition to that, templates, they're typically, the foundation for which users will build their applications on, right? So, if you got a weak foundation or a bad foundation, then, it's going to be more and more difficult to create a quality application, right? But, if you get a really strong and solid foundation, then it will be much easier for you to create something great, right? And then, I think the second part of the answer, why is it so hard to create and maintain? So I think parts of that are, just a technology issue, and and like I said, most template engines or template preprocessors, they require you to modify your code and forces you to maintain two things, your sample and your template. So obviously that's a problem. But number three is, there's millions of users out there, right? And I'm not talking about just C#. Obviously there's millions of C# users, but there's lots more of developers in general. And the goal of a template, should be, you should have some good foundation, something easy to understand and get started with. But also, as those users kind of grow and mature, you want to try to meet their needs as they kind of continue on too. So that's where, having parameters and templates that can spit out different content are required, right? And even with template engine, the more kind of complicated templates that we do have, they're difficult to maintain too. Like if you were to go and look at the Blazor WebAssembly template, man, it's got a lot of parameters and it outputs a lot of different things. So even those types of templates are hard to maintain. But for most people, they're not interested in creating these like super complicated templates. They just want something simple that they want to share with their team or with their community. Yeah. And, those are the types of templates that we'll be looking at here today.
Nice. Well, I've always thought about creating my own templates, and I never got into it because in the back of my head, I'm from that pre-VS Code time, and I remember how hard that used to be. And so I think a little bit of that stigma is like still in the back of my head. So one of the reasons why I asked you to come on today was one, to share with everyone else, but also to educate me so I could, see what the experience looks like now. Because I'm sure, myself included, like there's tons of different options and things that we could do in terms of creating templates that other people could use. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and pull up your screen, and then we can kind of just get to it. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So yeah, so we're here talking about creating project templates, and what I'm going to show you, you can use it in .NET New, Visual Studio, and Visual Studio for Mac, and left my contact info here as well for anybody, and that'll be on the last slide as well. Let's take a look at a quick kind of overview of what we'll be doing. So, number one is, how can you discover and use community templates both in .NET New and Visual Studio? And then after that, we'll take a look at how to create a template for .NET New, and then how to add a parameter to that, how to add a parameter to the project template. And then we'll see, what are some things that you need to do to customize your project template for Visual Studio itself. You want to add an icon and get the parameters to light up, stuff like that. And then at the end, we will show something which hasn't been demoed before and even hasn't been released in preview form. So it'll be, how to create a solution template or a multi-project template. And support for that will be coming in the next preview of Visual Studio 2019.10. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So we'll go ahead and get started here. So first, let's take a look at how to find and install templates, right? So Cecil already mentioned here, you can use NuGet.org. So the way you do that is you go to NuGet.org and then, type your search expression here. There's a popular template called .NET Boxed. They'll search for boxed. Use this little filter capability here to filter down to just templates. Then we can see box templates are here. If I was to drill into that, I get the actual command to install that. So, I can just copy this and install that into .NET New, and then kind of good to go there.
And I'll be super honest with you right now. I only recently, and recently is within the past, 6 or 8 months or so, realized that you could filter like you did inside a NuGet. I honestly, I had no idea that we could do that until one day I was just messing around. I'm like, oh, what does this thing do?
Yeah,
I've been using NuGet for years, and I swear to you, I have never seen that button. And so I think that's a really cool thing to point out, because folks may not know that we have those different options for selecting the types of things that the search returns.
Oh yeah, definitely. And this is relatively new, like within the last year or so. I think this kind of started lighting up on NuGet.org there.
Okay,
so yeah,
I don't
exactly.
feel as bad then.
And then another place that you can look at is, the website that you mentioned earlier, .NET New, .azurewebsites.net. On this site, it will do kind of like a little deeper search. It'll look inside the actual templates. But on NuGet.org, it's really just searching the NuGet package metadata there, basically. So that's kind of the difference between those two things. Okay, great. So we already kind of talked about, how do you install it? So, you got your .NET New install command here, and then that'll make it available for you to use. And we'll probably we'll take a kind of a closer look at that as well later on. All right, so now let's go ahead and move on to how to create your own templates here. So let me close out of everything and fire up my Visual Studio here, and then we'll get going. So we're going to create a template based on a console project here. Just keep it pretty simple here. So let's say give it a name and location. Yeah, that's fine. Sure. Okay, I'll go with the defaults here. Okay, great. All right, let me go ahead and customize this a little bit. All right, so let's do this. We'll say author. Put a description here real quick. You might hear my son in the background. Sorry about that.
No, we can't hear it. But as you're typing in these things, are these tokens of some sort, like template tokens that you're typing in, or are these just plain strings?
Sure. Yeah, great question. These are just vanilla strings here, right? But at the end of the day, I'm going to actually replace this author name and description here. But, it's just a regular string that could appear anywhere in your application. There's nothing special about this. And I could have called this whatever I wanted to. Let me add a couple of Z's in here. So yeah, there's nothing special about these particular letters here. So yeah, and the only reason I'm adding this content is, I don't want it to be the exact equivalent of the console template there as well. And let me add a reference to a NuGet package here. So I'll just do the Newton self JSON. All right, and once again, I'm just adding this just to show that these NuGet references will kind of flow through as well. All right, let's go ahead and close.
Okay, so then you got that defaults template. You added a couple lines of code, and then now you're adding an additional package that was not originally in that template.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Okay.
All right. So now I got my project. So you've already done. If you got to this point, you've already done most of the hard work of creating your template. So now what I'll do is I'm going to open this in Windows Explorer. Where's that? It's here. Okay. All right. So now we need to create a folder that's called .template.config, and that has to be at the root of the template content, which in this case is this project, the folder of the project. So let me go ahead and create that. So .template.config. Right here, we need a new JSON file called template.json. Sure to spell it right. That's right. All right, now I'm just going to open this guy up in Visual Studio here. And whenever you're editing any of these template files, the most important, the very first thing that you want to do is to go ahead and grab the schema declaration. And the schema declaration is going to give you things like IntelliSense and validation. So let me go ahead and grab the schema declaration.
And then that's just some JSON schema, right? That you associate with that thing.
That's right.
Got it.
Right. This is a JSON schema declaration. Let me reopen that file.
Is that schema declaration Microsoft specific, or is that because it just says JSON schema store org that's template? Is that a generic template thing, or is that something that's specific to Visual Studio?
No, this is specific to these template engine templates. That's right. Okay. And Mads Christensen originally created this schemastore.org. Okay. All right. So now, oh yeah, by the way, I forgot to mention one of the resources that I have here is this aka.ms/netcore templates. So if you follow that FW link, you're going to get to this repository here. And there's a lot of information here inside this README, and we'll go over some of this stuff as well. One of the examples of things are, what are the required parameters that we need? So we're going to basically walk through, creating all these required parameters as well. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So we got author. So we have, we'll just say Syed. And after that, we're going to do a source name. So the source name is actually a very important thing here. With the source name, whatever string that's given here for the source name is going to represent the project name. Like for instance, here I got my cool template, right? So I'll copy this and then I'll paste it in my source name. So now, whenever a project is created, whatever project name has been given by the user will replace my cool template wherever it appears in any file. So now, after I create this template, what you'll see when I give it a project name, it's going to replace my cool template with whatever name that was provided previously. So that's the name. That's the purpose of source name. Classifications. So classifications is kind of like you can think of it as a category. I'll go with console. There are some limitations for classification, so you can take a look at the that README on the repository that's got that information. Let's give it an identity. Demo. Then we'll give it a name. Oh yeah, an identity, this is like, you can kind of think about this as a unique identifier for this template here. And but the string doesn't necessarily appear in the UI anywhere, but it's used internally. Say the name of this is Syed Ha console, and this will appear. This is kind of like, you can think about it as the long name. We're also going to give it a short name here. The short name is what the user is going to use on the command line. But I'm going to actually give it a different, let me just do 03 because I did this a couple times.
So as you're doing this, I'm thinking about when I just type .NET New by itself into the command line and what it spews out. And there's usually like a name, a short name, some languages, and then I think, what is these tags or something like that? So I'm guessing what you're doing now is kind of setting up that metadata that gets displayed, right? Yeah, right. So template name, short name, language tags.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yep. Let's do the
Okay.
tags now. So tags is where you're going to specify things like, what type is this? So it's a project template. There's right now, there's 2 items in the IntelliSense project, an item, but later we'll be supporting solution as well. We'll see that later. Language is, C# or VB or whatever language your template's been authored in. So that's what that is. So now we got everything here. We got author. Yeah, so perfect. Okay, great. So now that we're pretty much good to go here, we're going to save this. I'm going to copy this full path, go into my terminal here. But one thing I want to point out is inside my repository, I do have a analyzer. Let's go to the analyzer. In order to, here's the command to get that analyzer installed. So you can go ahead and install this today. I've already got it installed onto my machine. Let's take a look at that one. Let me cd. Oh, no, I don't need to. So it's templates, and then we can do -H. There's 2 commands here. The one that you're interested in is the analyze. What options are there? I can see I can pass in either a folder path or a path to a NuGet package. I'll do folder path. Paste in my path. So now, I think I'm ready to go with my template. I just want to run my analyzer to make sure that there's no issues here before we proceed. Oh yeah, default name and description. So let's go ahead and add that because those are going to be useful. So default name is, what's going to be the default project name if the user hasn't specified one. We'll just say demo. We'll say on NET demo console, and then description.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Let's save it.
Okay.
And now let's go ahead and then we'll take a look at these symbols and things later on. And for the no host file, that's like a Visual Studio related thing. So I'll circle back to that one.
Okay.
Go into my templates folder here. Okay, so now I just have a couple things in here, but we'll create new ones here. Okay, so now we've got that folder. We need to go ahead and install that. So I'll do that with .NET new -- install. Oh, no, wrong one. Oh, I got that here actually. So let's go to this one. And you can just pass the folder path where that template .template config folder shows up.
Oh, nice.
Which one did I install? So what is the Syed 3, right? Okay, great. Yeah, so we can see in the list, I've got my Syed Ha console 3 here. So I'll use Syed Con 3. So let's get out of this. Clear it. So yeah, I got these 2 folders. We'll create a new one though. .NET new 3. And then I can say I want the output to go into demo project, demo console. Try it. A demo console. Let's take a look at it. Okay, so now I can see I've got, instead of creating the project as my cool template, it's created it as demo console.csproj. And if I was to take a look at the program.cs, I can see that the namespace declaration was successfully changed to demo console. So this is like, the most kind of basic template, right? Like I haven't even done the parameters or anything. But even this by itself is valuable, because you can create new projects based on it. And, some templates, they may not need parameters, right? So at this point, you can take this template, you can wrap it into a NuGet package, and then you can share it on NuGet.org or any NuGet repository that you've got going on. But, for us, what we'll do is now we'll go ahead and take this and then add a couple parameters to it. And then after that, I'll show you, let's go ahead and modify it and get it ready for Visual Studio. And then we show it in Visual Studio itself.
Right. So then all I really need to do to get started is to make sure that I do add that template JSON file in, I'm guessing, in the same directory as the project, right?
Yeah,
and now I can do that.
Yep, you create a new folder called .template.config.
Okay.
And then inside that folder is your template.json. And then wherever your .template.config is, it's going to pull files from this folder, but it knows how to exclude certain things as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And then we got a comment or a question and comment from the chat really quickly. This person's saying, Daniel, it would be nice if there was a plugin that adds right-click menu option on the project/solution called Convert to Template that does all of that legwork. So there you go. There's a little bit of feedback.
I think I think Mads and I even created that. I think it's called Template Creator. But it's
Nice.
pretty basic there. Probably should update that one. But yeah, definitely. This is, like I said, this is a journey, right? And we already been on this journey for several years. I think the next big thing that we'll do is inside Visual Studio, we'll have a search and install experience. And then after that, then we'll take a look at the kind of template author experience. And, we want to streamline that in Visual Studio. And, obviously having gestures to make that simpler is definitely going to be a part of that. But, to me, first we need to kind of nail the end user experience here of, finding, installing, and managing templates. And then we'll look at the template author stuff. But yeah, absolutely. Great suggestion. Thank you very much for that.
Awesome.
All right. So now we're going to go and add some parameters to this. So all the parameters are going to live inside this symbols property here. Let me go back and you're always going to want to probably refer back to the samples that I have as well. Because some of this stuff is a little kind of complicated, but after you've done it a couple times, it's relatively simple. But you might still want to refer to some sort of sample here, and that's exactly what I'm going to do too. But IntelliSense actually does really help with this too. But let's try it out. Author name, and then we'll inside here we're going to go ahead and give it the type as parameter. We've got a couple of different types here, but that's outside of the scope of what we want to talk about. Today, we're just kind of focused on parameter here. So I'll give it a description. I'll say author name, and this description can appear in the .NET New CLI, as well as Visual Studio. We'll say the default value. So if a value hasn't been provided, what should we use here? We'll say on net author, and then we'll give it a replaces. So this was very kind of similar to source name here, where you give a string, and then that's the string that will be replaced, right? So in this case, sorry about that. So in this case, I want to replace this author name with all these Z's. Okay. Man, oh man, it's tough working from home sometimes. You know what I mean? But, that's how it is, dude.
I'm surprised my son hasn't jumped in too, so I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how it is, man. All right, we got everything that we need here. Let's add the description one. Do description. I'll say like this. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Okay, great. All right, so same thing, parameter, and I'm just kind of IntelliSensing my way to success over here. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So we'll say we'll say description.
And I'm guessing they're all pretty standard, right? I mean, I'm guessing, they all have description, default value, replaces. I'm assuming you probably have some different types as well. I'm guessing there's a text type, maybe a list or something of that sort in there too.
Yeah, there is. That was a data type here that we can use. In this case, it would just be text. I think text is the default, if I'm not mistaken here.
Right.
Default value. So we'll say new description. And then, yeah, we could even give it the data type there. But yeah, there's a few different data types. But yeah, text is the default there. Okay, so now I've added these two symbols, right? And the important part is this replaces here, right? This is where all the magic kind of comes in, right? So, wherever I have this author name, even let's go and I'm just gonna I'm gonna edit my project file and we'll add a couple comments here. And just to have this, the author, and then for description, let me just go and copy and paste that thing. Right, that's what we got. So, and it doesn't matter what
really
file
just strings in your project, right? Like there's no special annotation or anything. It's just text replacement is what we're talking about.
That's it. So yeah, definitely, and that's one thing that I forgot to mention here. With this model, you do have to be a little bit kind of careful what you name your project and what the strings that you want to replace are, right? Like for example, you wouldn't want to go through and replace the word project, because that's going to then hose up your project file, right? So you do have to be a little bit careful, and sometimes you might have to actually modify your starting point there to have some different or more unique kind of names here. So that is kind of one drawback.
Does the analyzer CLI that you showed warn for any of those types of things?
No, it doesn't, and I never actually thought about that when I was doing the analyzer, but that's probably a good thing to take a look. I'll see if I can provide some sort of hint if you have a bad, if you have a kind of a simple name that's getting replaced everywhere.
Yeah, if
that's
it's
a great
replacing like
suggestion.
keywords and those types of things in your code, then that'd be an interesting thing to not
that's
do.
going to cause lots of problems for sure. Yeah, that's right. All right, so now I think I think I'm pretty good to go here. So what I'm going to do is pop back into my, I'm going to run the analyzer one more time, just to make sure I haven't reintroduced any problems here. And go from there. We should see those symbols frame. Oh yeah, framework. Okay, that's fine. I'll come back to the framework later. In the past, we required that the framework parameter was defined in order to show the parameters in Visual Studio, but I think this version of Visual Studio that I have doesn't have that problem.
Restriction.
Yeah, restriction. Okay, cool. Now we're gonna basically go ahead and reinstall this template with that same command, .NET new -- install folder path. So we're going to run that. Okay. All right, so it's syedcon03. Let's try it again. Go back into, so it's .NET new 03 output. Oh, actually, you know what I'll do is let's pull up the help on this. Let's say if you pull up, if you install the template, and then you want to kind of explore it, you can always do .NET new name of template -h. And then here's the parameter. So I can see I have a author name and description parameter available now. And I can see those things that I typed in are here as well. It's going to do it. So I'll say -a. And, in the particular version of .NET New that I have available here, I notice this is case sensitive. I think that's a regression, but I'm not sure. But definitely do be careful here.
Got it.
And then I'll do a D. Do you have something?
No, I was looking to the chat really quickly. We had a couple questions that came up with some folks. One person was just asking this question, which was, how does this manual template creation differ from the export template functionality of Visual Studio? Can parameters not be used in .vs template files?
Yeah, so VS Template is that technology that I was telling you about before. So VS Template is tied up to Visual Studio itself. There's no way to get those templates to execute anywhere else, right? So it's a whole entirely different, technology, and there's lots more, limitations as to where those templates can be executed. But for me personally, and my recommendation to people is, forget about VS Template and start using Template Engine. But if you already have big investments in VS Template, then definitely keep going on with it. But I think at the end of the day, these templates are going to be infinitely easier to maintain than VS Template is. And if anybody's got experience with VS Template, you know how hard it is to maintain these templates. I would love for you to try out this Template Engine experience and see how easy it can be. Yeah,
for sure.
Right.
And so,
but yeah, that's
about
a great question
that you just mentioned. So you just mentioned experiences. This person, Daniel, here on YouTube is asking or saying a search and install experience for templates in the IDE sounds like would be awesome. So maybe that's something that could happen for Visual Studio proper, like Visual Studio 2019. Maybe something like that could happen, or maybe someone that's watching that's really into creating extensions for VS Code could do that too.
Yeah, definitely planning on doing that. Don't have any kind of concrete ideas yet, but yeah, that's definitely on my radar. And I think once we do that, then the floodgates will open. So what I'm trying to do now is just make sure that we've got a good experience with the templates that are available, and let's make sure we dot our I's and cross our T's, and then we'll do the search and install, because after we do that, then I believe there's going to be lots of people installing templates and using those. So we have to make sure we got a good kind of foundation there, basically.
Sure.
Right.
Probably going to want to do like some template verification of some sort too, kind of like what we do with NuGet packages and Docker containers and those types of things. Like the minute that you open up VS to be able to install things from not Microsoft folks, what I mean? I think definitely having some verification as to, this person's not installing wonky code in my machine kind of thing is probably an important thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's all kinds of nuances into what is going to be required to provide a good experience to the kind of general Visual Studio user. Absolutely
Sure.
right. And it's even hard to kind of think about those things ahead of time as well.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're pretty much ready to go ahead and execute this new version of that template. So I've given a value for the author as well as the description, and then the -o that's a special one that says, hey, I want you to put the output in this particular folder, but it will also take this string for your project name. Let's go ahead and run that, see what we get. All right, so it says that the template was successfully created. I'm going to open up a new instance of Visual Studio, and then we'll take a look at what we get out of there. So let's go to open. Oh yeah, perfect. Okay, demo here 01. Let's take a look at this. All right, so first let's take a look at the program.cs, and like I said, here's my author name and here's my description for the CLI. Let's take a look at the project file. Those strings were converted as well. And like I said, whatever kind of file exists that's out here that's got that string, it will get updated. So yeah, that's how we do it. Let's take a look to make sure our NuGet package reference is still there too. So we still got that. If I was to build this, it should build. It should run as well, but there's nothing particularly interesting here from a run perspective. So no point in wasting time on that one. All right, so that's how you can create a basic kind of template there. And now we need to start working on, what is it that I need to do to take this template to make it ready for Visual Studio itself, right? So there's a few things that are involved with that. So first, what you're going to have to do is create yourself an IDE.host.json file. So, and this is going to go in that same .template.config folder. So I'm going to create a new file here. So it's IDE.
And you said the name of that file is IDE.host.json.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And all this information and more is inside that README in the repository here, right? So everything that I'm showing here is inside this repository, and most of it's covered in this README. So yeah, definitely no need to memorize right now. You can always just go back to that reference there. And yep. And then just like with the template.json, whenever you're modifying this IDE.host.json file, you always want to grab the schema declaration for that as well. And we'll go ahead and save that. And I think we got some sort of bug here in this version of Visual Studio that I'm running. The schemas are not getting picked up automatically for some reason. Not sure what's going on there. All right, so now let's take a look at this. So this is a key file. So if you don't have this file, your templates will not appear. They just will not appear in Visual Studio or Visual Studio for Mac. So this file is an indication that says, hey, this template is ready for being shown in IDEs like Visual Studio and Visual Studio for Mac. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to go and grab an icon file that I can use for this as well. Let me get my code here. So let's go into template samples here. And, I'm just grabbing it from the repository itself, right? So everything that I'm doing, users can follow along and do exactly what I'm doing here. Let me grab that other folder here, template config. I'm just going to paste that in here. So it's just called icon.png. So we'll do icon. And now, we already saw how we declared the symbols here in the template.json. You also need to give an indication in the IDE.host file that says, what symbols do you want to appear in Visual Studio itself? That symbol info, and looks like maybe our schema needs some sort of update here. This schema is not as up to date as the template.json one is. So we're going to first fill out the ID. This is basically the name of the parameter. So I love to copy and paste things because I misspell everything. And then we're going to go ahead and give it a name.
So if I was supposed to guess what you're doing here, or what some of this is happening here, is I'm guessing the UI, right? Like whether it's VS or VS for Mac, is going to look at these parameters and offer some type of text input drop-down visual, right? That we can kind of start clicking in. So very similar to what you're doing in the command line, but now there's a separate file to specify those types of parameters using the separate, host.json.
Yeah, exactly right. So, you know, there's often times where you want to kind of modify something or change something in a slightly different way. You know, like let's say from the command line, you know, I'm going to have this as author name as the parameter, right? And, you know, I don't want a space there because then users are going to have to type a quote. But, you know, in Visual Studio, I want author space name as the label for the text field that's going to be shown there. And this is what we do. This is the way that we do that. Then we'll say, you know, is visible true. And then
Is there a reason that I
another.
would not want that to be visible?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, right. Like if you look at the Blazor WebAssembly template, there's a bunch of options that are not necessarily relevant to the in Visual Studio experience, right? Like for example, there's a parameter for what type of database do you want to use, right? Do you want to use a SQLite database that's cross-platform, or do you want to use local DB? And that's, you know, that's a part of SQL Server, and you know we install that along with Windows. So that's an example of a parameter that, you know, you don't need that in Visual Studio because we already know that we'll just use local DB. But yeah, no, great question. And there's lots of other, you know, normally what you'll do is for the Visual Studio experience, you know, you want to provide the parameters that a large percentage of your audience is going to be interested in, right? But, you know, for the command line, you know, you've got people that are interested in everything, right? So normally you'll have additional options for those command line users because those are the users that, you know, they want to understand the nitty-gritty details of everything. Right.
Sure.
So that's why, you know, normally you have more parameters available on the command line than you will inside Visual Studio.
Got it.
And I'm
All
just
right. I want to
gonna
ask you two more questions before you go on, just to make sure we get
sure.
these out of the way. So first question was, do you know if Writer supports these templates?
Yes, they do. Mm-hmm.
Writer supports them. Okay. And then next
Mm-hmm.
question would be, is it possible to internationalize that file such that the IDE can choose the current language for the displayed text?
Oh yeah, that's a great question too. Okay, yeah, great question. So let's go here. So what I'm gonna go and show you the ASP.NET Core templates here, and I think there's a link to this in the
There's a link to it in
slides
your
as
repo, I
well.
believe.
Oh yeah, it should be in the repository as well. So if I go look at this project templates folder in ASP.NET Core repository, this is where all the templates live. And, you know, there's a mix between project and item templates. Let's take a look at the project templates. So if I go into content and let's take yeah, sure, empty web is fine. So now inside your template config, you can see that that there's additional folders here for different languages, right? And inside here, there's a strings.json file, and here's where the translations will come in. So yeah, it is absolutely possible to localize these. You're pretty much left on your own to do that part. So you're probably going to want to copy the technique that's shown here inside these samples here. But later on, we're actually working with we're going to simplify this to where those localizations can be kind of, you know, done a lot easier. You know, like today you got to create all these kind of string.json files, but the template engine team is interested in kind of simplifying this. So we might have an easier story for that. For users who are interested in keeping track of that, what I would recommend is to watch the .NET templating repository. This is where the template engine lives. And then the localization support and those types of changes will be coming through here first, and then they'll kind of make their way to Visual Studio and whatnot. Yeah, great question. We had another. Was there any other questions too? See, I thought you said there was two questions.
Yeah, the first one was about Writer, and then the second one was about the internationalization. So those are the two.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we could keep going.
Yeah. So I got my author name here. I just copied that. I'm gonna type in the description one. Let me just go here. Sorry about everything, noise and stuff. IDE.host.json. So there's my description. All right, so now we got our stuff here. So I think we're good to go. Let's go ahead and run the analyze tool one more time. See if we introduced any new problems. Oh yeah, the framework. So I'm pretty sure we don't need the framework. Okay, so that's fine. So we made pretty good progress there. Now what we need to do for Visual Studio, we do require, for Visual Studio, the templates have to be wrapped inside of a NuGet package. They can't be just
in a folder somewhere.
Just, yeah, in a loose folder there, right? So let's go back. So let me go back to show everybody how to do this part as well. So let's go back to, where is it? It's over here, I think. Yeah, that's right. So first you're going to want to create yourself a new spec file. So we'll go and create this guy. So let me go into, oh, actually, you know what I want to do is actually, you know what? I should have created one additional level of folder over here. So what I want to do is I'm going to create a new folder that's called content.
Okay.
And then I'm just going to put this folder there. And I'm going to, at this time, I'm going to reset my templates because I moved that. So I'll say .NET new --debug re-init. So you can, and this is all in that README doc
I've
as
never
well.
seen that command before.
Yeah, so this will basically bring your templates back to how they were installed. All right, so now I've got my content folder and everything is inside there. So now what I'm going to do is add my new spec file right here. So I'll say new spec.
And then as you're doing that, another question that just popped up not too long ago, is there an option to use a template language? And I'm guessing the person's talking about, can you have like conditional statements and loops and things of that nature in your templates as well?
Yeah, interesting. So we do have, conditional expressions and whatnot, and you can see some of those examples in the ASP.NET core repository here. So for example, if I was to go into, where are we at here? Empty C#. Well, there's not much interesting going on in the empty template. So let me get back to, if I go to content and let's just say web app, I guess. Yeah, starter web C#. And then if I was to go look at startup.cs, we can see some kind of conditional content here. So you can see I got this #if organizational auth or individual auth. So these are symbols that have been declared, or parameters that have been declared in the template.json. And then, if organizational auth is passed through, or if individual B2C auth is passed through, then this section will be emitted. But if that condition is false, then this whole section will not be emitted at all. And then another thing to kind of take note is, we normally like to try and use, existing comments or preprocessor commands that each language supports, right? So, if I take a look at this, the #if is like a built-in kind of syntax for C#, right? And these are those preprocessor syntax, right? So the advantage of this is, your project still builds and runs, even though this is a startup.cs that covers all the different varieties of the web app project template, it still can build and run. And then you can even set it up to where you can test this in Visual Studio. You can declare this preprocessor directive and then switch from one to another. And then those certain parts of your code will light up or go gray based on what's available, right? So you could still F5 it. So yeah, that's how we do it. Now for the for loops and all that sort of stuff, we don't have any support for for loops. But there's definitely been some requests for that too. Normally we just like to try to have all the content there and then kind of go with that. But yeah, that's not the first time that I've heard that request before. But I'm not sure if the team is planning on doing anything about that or not. But I know that I have heard that feedback before.
Got it. Okay.
All right, let's get started here. For this, I'm pretty much just going to copy and paste all this. I'm not an expert with all this new spec stuff. Save it. Let me close it and then reopen it.
And I'm guessing when you're creating these new spec files that there's no, because someone's going to ask, I know this, there's no there's no VS editor support to just create this new spec file for you.
Oh, no, not yet. Yeah. So that I think will be a part of whenever we do take a look at, exporting templates, then we take a look at that.
Okay.
Okay, so I just got my new spec file here, give it a new ID. For version, I'll just go with 1.0, description, author, all just kind of standard stuff, right? And here's your package type, right? This is what will get you into that template search, so you definitely want that. And then here's an indicator of, what files do you want to to have what file should be included inside this NuGet package. All right, let's copy this. Let's go back to the command line. XC pack. Let me see what's the help on this guy. So yeah, NuGet pack, and then output directory. Let me actually, yeah, NuGet pack. Okay, so I'll pass it the new spec file. All right, so there's that dash.
And for folks that are wondering too, that NuGet.exe should be available once you install the .NET SDK, right? Or is that something you had to install separately?
Don't remember. Yeah, I'm not really sure about that one. You might have to go and download it from NuGet.org. I think you can also. I think you might be able to also use .NET Pack, but I'm not 100% on that one. So yeah, you might also be able to use .NET Pack for that one. So let me go to the appropriate folder here. Templates temp. I'll just create a NuGet folder, and we'll throw this in here. All right, so hopefully this is going to work. Okay, great. Let's take a look at it. All right, so now I got my NuGet package. Let me just crack this guy open just to make sure it's got everything that I'm expecting. So I got content, my cool template. Okay, great. So this is really what I need, right? All right, let's try it. Okay, great. Okay, so now I'm going to install this guy. So .NET new -- install. Oopsies. -- install path to NuGet package. Close out my Visual Studio. So by the way, you'll need to, whenever you install a template on the command line, you'll need to restart your Visual Studio for that to appear.
And just so that it could pick it up.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Let's go ahead in here. We only got like 6 minutes left. I wanted to show the solution template real quick if I can.
Yeah, we can go over a little bit if you need to, so that's fine.
Oh, okay. All right, so now hopefully it should show up here. It goes well. Oh man, look at that. All went well. All right,
There
so
you go.
site
There's your template.
console 3. Yep, let's try it out. Let's see. We should get our, so this is just the standard project name and location. Oh, here we go. So here's my author name and my description. You can see it picked up MVP author. I'll just do new description, demo description. All right, so now this should hopefully work. Let's take a look at what we got. So let's take a look at our program.cs, and boom, on net author demo description. So that's it right there. So that's it. So at this point, I can take this NuGet package, publish it to NuGet.org, and share it with everybody, right? All right. Let's go back.
One question I had, and let me know if this makes sense. But what if I wanted to create a template that was multiple projects? So right now, like you're kind of doing like single project templates. What if I wanted a template that spat out like, you know, a worker template and an API template, but like, you know, a worker project and an API project in the same template? Could I do that?
Yeah, totally. Right about to do that, actually. Funny enough.
Awesome.
So yeah, great kind of segue there. So I got my, I try to figure out where did I put that project? It's over here somewhere. Where is it? Is that one? Yeah, that's the one. Okay. Oh man, let me throw that in the right folder. All right, let's open this guy up. Oh, did it? That's fine. Whatever. Okay, so now I got my cool template here. Let me add a web. Yeah, let me add a web template here real quick as well. Say, actually, you know what? Let's do something else. So I'm going to create a solution folder. So I'll say apps, and I'll create another solution folder that's called labs. I'll take my cool app and put it in there, and we'll create a new web app here as well. ASP.NET Core web app and my cool template web. And remember, I'm using this my cool template as the source name, right?
Yeah.
So that should be replaced as well when we run through the template. Let's go and create that. Then we'll add a class library to this as well, just for funsies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just gonna add a class library project here as well. So my cool class lib, that's fine. Go ahead and create that. We'll take the defaults. All right, that's fine. I'll just leave it as it is. I'm gonna just add a reference to that project in each one of these. So I'll take that one, and then we'll add one to this as well. So add project reference. So yeah, class lib. It's fine. I think that's it. Let me just build it and make sure that everything goes good. Okay, great. Awesome. Let me close out of this. I will rebuild the NuGet package. Oh, man, oh man. You know what? I totally forgot. There's another thing that I need to point out here. So there's a folder here that you need to delete. So it's like C users, username, and then .template engine. So you want to clear out this whole folder here, basically, whenever you're testing locally. And I have a PowerShell function here that will do that for me, and that's in the repository as well, so everybody can use it. But you can see that's kind of got blown away there. But let's say if you're testing your templates and it seems like no changes are getting picked up, I think the easiest thing to do is to modify the version of that NuGet package. So that could be something that we run into here, but hopefully not. Okay, so I've created a new version of that NuGet package. So let me go in here and just verify that it's got the things that I'm expecting it to have. So I go into content and okay, so now I see I got these 3 templates, and the solution file is not even supposed to be in there. I just moved it at the last minute, so I didn't have to modify that solution. Okay, you can leave or take out the .vs folder. I will just get rid of it, but that part doesn't really matter. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and install that template one more time. That's right. All right, so now hopefully this should become a solution template, essentially.
Nice.
So let's do create new project and take another search for Syed. There it is. All right, so yeah, that's fine. Okay, yeah, so 002. Let's try it.
All right, cross the fingers. Let's see what it does.
Oh man, let me modify the version of the NuGet package, like I was mentioning. Where is that thing? It's here somewhere. Wait, let me reset my templates again. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, it didn't. Sorry, I got to rebuild the NuGet package, obviously. Install. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Try it one more time. Yeah, man, these NuGet packages are getting cached all over the place.
Yeah. So I'm guessing every time you do an update, you should do like some type of incremental versioning change or something, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And you can just do, .preview1, .preview2, .preview3, and then after you get that part figured out, then just go with the final version that you want. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
Got it.
So yeah, I see it in my recently used project template, so I'll go with that. All right, I got my fingers crossed this time. I guess it somehow remembers the string somehow, but it didn't remember this string. That's kind of weird. But either way. So this should work unless I've, oh man, what's going on here? What did I do now?
No.
Oh. Sorry, my bad. I do know what I did here. My bad. So yeah, that's right. All right. So in the template.json, I forgot to make an update. That's absolutely required for this
okay.
For this solution template. So if you remember correct, when we first kind of created this, we authored the template.json to have, oh, that's the problem too. Oh, my bad. So yeah, my bad. Okay, so I made a couple mistakes here that we're going to go ahead and go through live. And these are things that users are going to run into as well. Let me close that solution. So the first problem is, my template.config folder is in this my cool template console project, right?
Right.
So that's the root. So it's only going to pick up folders under that by default. So I need to copy this and paste
And
it
move it
one
up.
level above. So that's
Got it.
one thing that I need to do. The next thing that I need to do is I need to go into template.json. I need to go into template.json and tell that this is not a project template. It's a solution template.
Ah, okay. There you go. So I'm
And
guessing
then,
right there where you have those tags have specific meanings, right? So there's specific
yeah.
tags that have to be there.
Yeah, so this is, it can be either project or item, but we're going to introduce solution here as well.
Mhm.
And then we need to add a primary outputs. This is like a temporary kind of thing. This is a bug that hasn't been fixed. So by the time users get this, they shouldn't have to specify primary outputs. But with this particular version, I do have to specify that. And it's got like a kind of like a funny syntax. So I'm going to just go and copy what's already here, basically. So let me copy that. But yeah, hopefully users won't have to worry about that. Let me go into this folder one more time.
So you just have to point it to the solution file. I'm guessing the solution file should be in the same folder that the template config folder is in.
Yeah, it has to be, it has to be either in the same folder or underneath it somewhere. And you can put a relative path here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, yeah. So if it was in one of these folders, I just put the relative path there. That should really be about it. So let me go and
let's try it again.
See what happens. Yeah, just for safe measure, I will modify that new spec version number one more time to 1.02. We'll save that. We'll go and reinstall, we'll reset and reinstall. So we'll create the NuGet package.
Repack it, and then after you repack it, you got to reinstall it.
Yep. I'm going to reset my templates first, and then reinstall. Oh, and then this is with the new version there. Let's try that out. I'm going to close my Visual Studio. All right, let's run it one more time, and hopefully this works. Let's try it. Create new project. It should show up in this MRU list. Where are we at here? Okay, there we are. Perfect.
Nice.
All right, so just go with the defaults. And we'll create here. So this should work. Definitely should work, I think. All right, look at that. I got my solution folder, dude. I got my projects. Let's take a look at it. So I got my program.cs. I got my author stuff here. And then, I didn't have any kind of replaceable stuff here, but you can see that the project name was replaced as expected. And then if I look at the disk here, I can see all the file names have the right file name too. So the file name was replaced, the folder names were replaced, and then the specific content was replaced too. Like if I looked here, even in the project file, that was replaced too. So, there was a couple people that brought up VS Template, right? Dude, I challenge you to do this with VS Template. This is super hard to, and with VS Template, there's one way that you create your single project template, right? But then to create a multi-project template, you got to turn everything on its head, throw everything out that you did before, and do a whole new thing.
Yeah,
it's just not easy. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to take anything away from the group that created and maintains VS Template. Man, that was really wonderful technology that served Visual Studio great for a couple of decades. But now it's just not up to date. So that's just that's the way technology works, man.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much most of what I have.
Yeah, there's one question from Max I wanted to ask, or make sure we ask. This one is coming in from YouTube. Max is saying, could you explain publishing/updating your template in a company private repo? He says that would be a major use case for my team. So publishing, updating templates in private repos. So I'm guessing it's private NuGet repos that they be publishing it.
I think you have two kind of high-level options there for your organization. One is a private NuGet feed, right? So you can either stand up your own NuGet server there, like let's say if you're the Army, right? You might have an environment that's fully locked down with no internet access, no access to anything besides the network. So in that case, you can stand up your own kind of NuGet server, and then you can install these commands with .NET New based on those NuGet feeds. And then, inside Visual Studio, they'll use those NuGet feeds as well. If if you're like, let's say if you're a Visual Studio Code kind of organization, I think you have an additional kind of option to where you can just have a network folder that's shared, and then users are just installing templates with the folder and then running .NET New to execute those, right? But if you want the Visual Studio or the IDE support, that's where you have to have those NuGet packages. Yeah.
Got it. And then another question that just came in, also from YouTube. This person is asking, can you use a custom wizard for solution templates made this way to include or exclude some projects depending on selected options?
No. There's no kind of concept of custom wizards here. But to include or exclude project templates for let's say a multi-project template, I think you should be able to achieve that in our template.json file. Let's go back to the ASP.NET Core stuff.
Yeah, because I guess at that point it wouldn't be text replacement anymore. It would be completely ignoring a project, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so I think you should be able to achieve that with the support that we have in template.json to exclude something, and odds are we're going to use the. I'm in a tantrum over here, dude. Sorry about
we can't
that.
hear it. It's all good.
So let's go back to my cool template. So there's a the file's not even here. Okay, just 1 second. Where is it? It's here. Let me go back to the template.config. So in here, you can specify a sources option. And then there's some kind of things to explore here, but I believe this is where you can have some conditions that say, hey, if this condition if this condition evaluates to true, add this as a source. So I think that's the way that you would do it. But users can always contact me after the fact here at this either email or Twitter, and then I'll try to get the engineers involved that know more kind of details on these particular things. But yeah, I believe you should be able to have conditional projects being generated. Yeah, I know for a fact we got conditional files. And that by itself should bring support for conditional projects. Yeah. Nice.
Cool. All right, Syed. So we're running low on time. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with folks before we wrap up?
That was pretty much it. Yeah, that was pretty much it. But I was just looking at the ASP.NET sample here about sources, and we can see that exact thing is being shown here, right? So I got my condition that says, hey, if it's not org auth or not individual auth, then I want you to exclude these things. So this is the pattern that you're going to want to take to have those conditional kind of projects. Yeah.
Oh, nice. I got it. Got it. Cool. Well, folks, if if you all have any more questions for Syed, go ahead and reach out to him on social media. There's his email right there. You also should have the links to everything you need right here in the resources section here inside of the slides. So try creating your new templates. I know some of you all have spoken about creating templates for your companies, and I'm sure for your personal projects as well. Try it out and let us know what you think about it. And also remember to check out that template explorer that site also has, .NETnew.azurewebsites.net. And hopefully you discover some new templates that you might want to try out. But with that being said, like Syed, I mean, it's been great. Thank you so much for coming on, and thank all of you for watching.
Yeah.
And make sure you tune in again next week. I believe next week we're going to be talking about Microsoft Identity Web Security with Web API. So that should be pretty cool. A lot of us are building web APIs and microservice-y things, and we don't often talk about how to secure them. So next week, that's what we're going to be talking about right here on .NET Live. So thank you all so much. I'm going to play the music as soon as I can find it. That's what I've been looking for over here. All right, great. Cue the music. Thank you all for watching. Take care.
Bye-bye.